Hi, I'm Dani Filth from Cradle of Filth, and you're watching cradleoffilth.nl. Godspeed and the Devil's Thunder is an album based on the prolific medieval aristocratic serial killer, one-time comrade in arms to Joan of Arc, Gilles de Rais. He was one-time Grand Marshal of France, possibly the richest man in Western Europe at the time. After the war with the English and after the burning of Joan of Arc as a apparent heretic, he took to demonology and murder, child murder and kidnap, trafficked with alchemists and sycophants, eventually was brought to justice, excommunicated by the church, although he sought the church's clemency, and eventually died, forgiven, and given a Christian burial after he was hung and burned. It's a really, big concept. It's a faster, more brutal album, representing the subject matter. It's more symphonic. And if I was to Cradle of Filth fans, if anybody was, if I wanted to just simply say, kind of how this album is, imagine a more modern, better produced Cruelty and the Beast. Similar in atmosphere, obviously completely different record altogether, but if I was to compare it with any of our predecessors, I would say Cruelty and the Beast, as it was the atmospheres of what we were writing at the time that prompted me to sort of look back over my notes on Elizabeth Bathory, at which point I discovered some old notes I'd written about Gilles de Rais and then pursued that. Well, obviously I was directed toward that, but this time we'd worked very hard on obtaining a balance, a union between the lyrics and the ideology with the music. So it's very cinematic. Things that happen in the lyrics are happening in the music, and we've achieved that with, symphonic parts and choir, and, it's like a soundtrack. But I think we have to leave that up to people to decide for themselves anyway. That's the intention. Yeah. We recorded it with, whereas we mixed pornography with Andy Sneap, at that time we'd actually planned then to, that we would come back and he would say, yes, I want to produce, I want to mix it, and I want to master it all at my studio. I mean, he's had great bands in there before. He had Megadeth in before then, and Exodus, Testament. So he knew what he wanted to do before we even went in there, so there was a lot of planning. The sound is impeccable. Andy's such a great producer. I guess so. It's got the spirit of the old days. It's a much faster record. It's definitely got more bombast to it and more symphony, and like I say, it's more cinematic. And I would definitely say that some of the tracks on here are the fastest we've ever written. Well, it was a natural progression. I can't remember any point where we actually sat down and said, here, check this checklist out. No, tick fast drums, ticks, I guess you could say it's because we came off the back of a headline tour in America, and we were fired up and tight as a unit, and we had 6 weeks prior to we all disappeared to, our various different countries and dimensions for Christmas, so we just undertook it, and it could be anything. It could be from the time of year, it was coming close to Christmas, and I said we were very, very tight as a band, full of fire. Maybe it was the addition of, working with our new drummer for the first time he's recorded for us, and he's an amazing percussionist. And the first time we worked as a four-piece, and because our second guitarist and our keyboardist, Rosie, they're solely live members. They have their other projects. They have careers in tutoring. So they spend half the year working at universities and whatever, and the rest of the time on tour with us, splitting their year up like that. So we brought on board a friend that we've worked with in the past, Mark Newby Robson, whom I call Captain Keyboards, because he used to be a captain in the British Army. And we worked with him in the past. He's actually filled in for us between Lecter and Martin Fowl joining the band back in the day. So yeah, it was an opportunity to explore Paul's writing ability and my writing ability, working with him and working with these other people. Yeah, Luna's on the record. She does some parts that are representative of the children that have been murdered, almost like their spirits that come back to haunt him. Well, we're just putting the finishing touches to the Gospel of Filth, the book that we've been working on for 4 years, and that's like it uses Cradle of Filth as a basis, a springboard, so that each chapter is based around each of our albums, but then explores their themes, and it does this by going through it historically. Like, for example, the chapter Dusk in Her Embrace is about the Gothic aesthetic from architecture through the hell rakes of the 1800s, the Gothic authors of the 1900s, the Gothic revival of the end of the 70s, and ends up with bands like interviewing bands like Lacuna Coil with In Temptation, and talking to people like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and stuff like that. But as well as like making it historical and like a vast Bible almost, it's star-studded by so many contributors who have been interviewed or voiced their opinion in box outs, from people as diverse as the last ever interview with Anton LaVey, I think, or one of the last, and some great pictures from him, to people like Dario Argento and Clive Barker and Christopher Lee and Villa Valor and Tom Araya and Marilyn Manson and Charlie Manson. Just, you know, it's a big project, and it's coming into the stores about Easter time, but to coincide with the record, we're having a sort of grimoire release that's strictly limited, with a leather-bound cover, an extra chapter written by me, which is based on the record Live Bait for the Dead, so it discusses everything sort of mad and bad on the road, and also it's hand-numbered and signed, and that can only be got at Halloween via our website, which is www.cradleoffilth.com. We're undertaking a video for the track Honey and Sulphur. There's going to be a couple more. I think there's another free download that will happen before the record, which will be Midnight Shadows, Cruel to Dark and Counsel with Life. So yeah, the video, bunch of other press trips and that, but and then we have the headline festival tour we're doing with Gorgoroth, Moonspells and Septic Flesh. Then we go to the States for 8 weeks and take out Satyricon and Septic Flesh again. And then there's the rest starts, and at the moment we know we're doing a full European tour, but we don't know exactly the details of it, because the American one's only just been booked, and the American one doesn't finish until middle of March, so we're going to be really busy. Yeah, but it was I wouldn't say it was easier. No, this has been a real test of our mettle, really. And because of the subject matter and making it all tie in together, we worked 2 months with the artist on representing what's happening in the story in this glorious artwork that runs right through the booklet. There's a special edition of the album coming out at exactly the same time with 10 extra songs on, so they had to be recorded and compiled. Yeah, but because of the planning and working with Andy closely and really demoing and just spending the best part about 3 months building the album, when we actually got into the studio, we were really heads down, see you at the end type with it. Trouble in Their Double Lives is possibly going to happen soon, but we actually took some of the tracks. There's 2 of those tracks on the special edition, and then there's an avenue to actually download further ones later on. I don't know if that's a feature of the special edition, but it probably is, as nowadays people buying albums want your firstborn child as well as everything else. But they can't have her. the next possible plan for us, which is a sort of personal thing we want to do, but it, you know, is possibly do a double album that's half revisiting old songs that the fans really love, like tracks from Dusk in Your Embrace and Principle of Evil Made Flesh and Vampire, and also on the other side do a load of covers that we've always wanted to do, like Alice in Hell by Annihilator and Eve of the War from the War of the Worlds soundtrack, and you know, it's really tough stuff.